Hi folks, here's an update on my kitchen refrigerator combo. I redid my refrigerator slide so that the fridge slides all the way out. It used to only slide halfway out, and I found that it was inconvenient, and also it really wasn't necessary. I was leaving room behind the fridge back there for the gray water tank, but it turned out that all of the vents on the fridge are right back on this wall, and if I put the gray water tank there, I was afraid the fridge would overheat. So as a result, I wasn't using the gray water tank in that position anyway, so there was no reason to leave an 8-inch gap there. So I moved the fridge back about 4 inches so that there's still a 4-inch gap behind it, plenty of room for ventilation, but that allowed me to actually pull the fridge out all the way and it doesn't hit the front seat. Now this also improves access to the fridge. You'll notice the freezer door is still blocked, but if I put down the leaf, there is just enough space here so that I can open the freezer door unobstructed, as well as the refrigerator door. I usually leave the leaf up because it doesn't rattle as much when I'm driving. I really like the fridge slide. There's only one thing I don't like, and that is having to reach, when I'm standing at the kitchen, having to reach all the way to the floor to get to the release buttons. So I thought about rigging up some kind of a handle, but the mechanical linkage seemed very, very complicated, and I figured it would rattle, and it just sat that way for a while without anything being done. And then one day I realized that the V-brake invented by Shimano could be a model for what I wanted to do. Now, if you're not familiar with the Shimano V-brake, here's the basic idea. They're called linear pull brakes as well. The brake cable runs linearly in one side of the brake. The housing stops here. The cable goes over to this point where it gets attached. The whole thing, when it's hooked up, looks something like this. And now when the cable is tightened, the two sides of the brake tilt towards each other. Well, I thought, hey, I can rip off this idea and I can use a cable. I had to custom machine these little plates right here. And but it's the same idea. The cable goes in this side where there's a cable stop. The cable travels across to the other side where it's clamped. And now, see how this doesn't move, but when you squeeze the lever, now it moves. I'm going to chop this off so I have a segment of handlebar, and then I have to make some clamps so that I can clamp this bar onto the frame somewhere, and then I can just reach down and squeeze and pull. All right, well, I finally finished this project. I cut a section of the handlebar that was as long as I could make it, and then I made these clamps so that I could hang the brake lever here. And now, there we go. That is nice. I like it. I hope you like it too. Thanks for watching. And if you'd like to see some more details of the build, stick around for another few seconds. Now here are a few details of the build for those who might be interested. First of all, the main attraction, of course, are these little ears that I machined that take the place of the brake arms on a bicycle. This piece actually does come from a bicycle, as does the cabling. In order to make these things move freely without this bolt loosening up, I bought some of these shoulder bushings. There's one behind each of the ears here, so they're actually rotating on this bushing. They're not rotating directly on the screw, and this allows me to tighten the screw down pretty firmly, so hopefully that won't loosen up. If it does, I'll put some Loctite on it. On this side, of course, I've just drilled a hole to allow the cable to pass through and provide a cable stop. On this side, it was a little more involved. I had to drill a hole and tap it. I also cut a little groove in there like you would see on a brake arm for the cable to sit in. I had to cut this washer back because there wasn't quite enough room for it, even with the bushing. Now, as for the brake lever, what I did here was I cut a section of the handlebar. I cut the grip part of the handlebar up to the point where it starts to bend and widen. And so this was the longest piece I could get out of that handlebar. That handlebar, by the way, was about a 30-year-old handlebar, and I'm not exaggerating. And I don't think it was really even safe to ride anymore. The brake lever came off that bike. All the components I stole from this bike are decades old, so I'm not upset about using them. I had to machine these clamps here to hold the bar, and I put 2 bolts through the clamps. One bolt hole is just a clear hole straight through to the threaded end of this piece of 2525. The other bolt is clear halfway through, and then it's threaded on the bottom half here. I had to cut these slits out with a hacksaw, and this allows me to clamp it so that the bar doesn't move. Now I've really dotted every I and crossed every T, from the end caps on the handlebar at both ends. These are what you'd find on the end of a typical mountain bike handlebar, to the little cable nipple that keeps the cable from fraying on the end of the cable. This flexes a little bit. There doesn't seem to be anything I can do about that. I think this entire piece of 80/20 is actually twisting when I do that. But it works. I don't think it's going to come apart. So I'm really glad this is done. I hope you enjoyed it. Well, again, thanks for watching.